Welcome to Mad About Money. I'm Maddy Alexander-Grout, and this is the podcast that is Mad About Money. I'm here with the fabulous Sarah Brill, financial coach, and she's going to be telling us a bit about her and her money story. So, welcome, Sarah. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Hi, Maddy. Thanks so
I feel
much.
like Scylla. I'm like, who are you? Where'd you come from? That's a terrible accent.
Thanks so much for having me on. So I'm a financial coach. I'm from London, the UK, and I've been coaching for about 5 years. I am a trained transformative coach, and I'm also trained as a financial coach as well.
Amazing. And we're going to be finding out what all of that jargon means, because some of it sounds jargony, but not to me and you, but to other people possibly. It's first of all, it's really great to have you on. Like Sarah and I chatted for what seemed like hours yesterday. It was only an hour, but we could have carried on going for quite some time. Mainly because we had so much to talk about, and her story is really interesting. So I'm going to ask you what I ask every single person that comes on this show. What is your money story?
Thanks. Well, I guess I can start at the beginning.
Start right at the beginning.
Growing up,
beginning.
when a lot of our money stories are formed, often our money stories are formed at a very young age, generally by the age of 4, sometimes by the age of 7. So I guess I grew up and never really had, any debt or any struggles in that sense. I've always been quite good at managing my money, and that's mostly because my parents from quite a young age encouraged me to go out and work, to make my own way, and to be quite independent. And I've always been quite independent, and I've always been a good saver. So that allowed me to go traveling at a young age. So when I was 19, I decided to go to Panama by myself, which was quite an adventure. But I guess throughout the years, I've got into a very good habit of saving, but I didn't necessarily know about investing. I didn't really know whether I wanted to buy a property. I was very keen to live abroad and go traveling. So I lived abroad for about 10 years. And I traveled to some amazing places as well. So I lived in Dubai for about 4 years and traveled to Southeast Asia. And we spoke about yesterday, I was a dive master for a year or 2. And unfortunately, that doesn't pay the bills. So when I came back to the UK, I retrained as a transformative coach. And at that point, you're making your own living as self-employed. And I think it was at that point I realized I needed to recheck my finances and what my financial goals were. And through that journey and that adventure, I guess I realized if I knew now what I knew 10 years ago, I probably would have started investing way earlier. And that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about helping other people to manage their money better so that they can go ahead and achieve their life goals, whatever they are.
Amazing. So when we were talking about Panama yesterday, you said that you ended up going there like really randomly. Weren't you supposed to be going with like a group of friends and they just all didn't go? So you ended up going on your own. How was that?
I was supposed to go with one friend, and I'd already booked my flights before they decided they didn't want to go. I decided to see it through. So I spent about 2 months, I think it was, traveling from Panama to Mexico, which really was the first time that I'd stepped outside the UK or Europe, really, because I think even in Europe, in terms of having, I guess, our relationship with money, we're quite privileged generally as society, even if we don't think we are and we're struggling with things. When you go out and you go into perhaps really poor places like Myanmar or, maybe places that aren't so privileged, Sri Lanka, with the way that they interact with money, gives you sort of fresh perspectives. And you start to check in with yourself and start to think, what is important in my life? And most people, wherever they spend their money, it's on things that they value. So whether that's things, experiences, it could even be buying time. So, investing so that later in life you can spend time with family and grandkids. But we often don't think so far into the future. So I think traveling for me just shifted my perspective. And you might call it a paradigm shift, which I also realize might sound a bit jargony as well, but it's almost that moment where you get a realization, not an aha moment, but a eureka moment, or you're walking down the street and everything you knew to be true is just switched, and you almost can't go back to that way of thinking. It's almost like a self-evolution. And I think traveling and having that privilege of being able to travel really gave me that shift in perspective.
And how were you at managing your money when you were traveling? Did you get work, or how did that work?
This is a great question. And everyone asks me, how much do they need to go traveling? This is a really common question that I ask when I'm coaching clients. So it really does depend how you travel. And for me, I'm quite a frugal traveler. So I did a lot of backpacking, a lot of hostels. But I also think it's important to appreciate the place that you're in. And sometimes you need a bit of alone time as well. You don't always want to be sharing a room with 8 other people. So I kind of did a balance. I would pick and choose. I was very mindful that when I slummed it, I then had something nicer to look forward to. So I'd kind of spend like a week, in a hostel, and then I'd go, actually, maybe I'll spend a couple of days in a nicer place, hotel, or even a private room in a hostel. A lot of hostels have private rooms. It's a great way.
I didn't know that. Okay.
A great way. Often you also don't see them necessarily on things like booking.com or Agoda. So sometimes you can contact them directly and see if they have private rooms within their hostel. And then they can be quite competitive with hotels. So I did a little bit of both. But I think on average, I probably averaged around £1,000 a month. But
that's good.
But it depends where you travel. So this is also coming into play, thinking about where you're going to travel, right? I spent 6 weeks in Australia. And I remember landing, and everyone's talking about the cost of living crisis then, but that was back in 2012. And I remember a cucumber was about $7 then. And I thought, wow. Yeah, exactly. So I spent a lot of time in places like Australia cooking my own food. A lot of hostels have a kitchen. I'd make pasta and tomato, whereas maybe when you're in Thailand, you can afford to eat out 3 times a day. So it was really dependent on where I was, but I always set myself a rough budget and a rough idea. And then to top that up, I would freelance a little bit of social media. I would do sort of barter deals with people. So if I wanted to rent a caravan, I would go into places like Autobahn, who I work with, and I exchanged a little bit of like a social media strategy in exchange for a van for a little bit. So
what a great idea. Was that scary, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go and offer them something and they're going to say no?
Yes and no. I think it's creating a belief and a mindset.
Yeah.
You have something to offer. And I'd worked in social media back in 2011 when Facebook was this new thing and the idea of marketing was just launched on Facebook. So it was back in the very early days when people didn't really know what perhaps to post or what the value of social media is. Now, of course, we have the opposite problem where there is so much information, we don't know who to listen to, and we cut out the middle. But on average, I think we see about 130 pieces of information on social media every day. So you're constantly flicking, right? You're constantly flicking, and you very rarely actually digest the information. So yeah, I think it probably was quite intimidating at first, but I think once you start talking to people and having conversations and really understanding what it is that they need, if you have something that you can help them with, and if it's a problem that you're going to solve, then why not? You might feel like a bit of a fraud if you're not actually offering any value.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's lots of ways that my brain is going, but I don't think that all of them are clean. So I think maybe we'll skip over that part.
Yeah.
But no, that's really interesting and really cool. How much did you save before you went?
So it wasn't that. So when I lived in Dubai, I was made redundant from a job in Dubai, and I'd been in Dubai for 4 years. And the original plan wasn't to go traveling for 3 years. My original plan was to go on holiday for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah, I spent 3 weeks in Indonesia, and I was diving, and Bali is an amazing place. And I traveled some of the islands, and I thought, do you know what, right now in Dubai, it works a bit different to the UK with property, because if you're renting a place, you have to put down a year's rent in advance.
Oh, wow.
So I'd already planned for that year in advance. Roughly, it was about £1,000 a month. So it was about £12,000 that I had parked for my rent in Dubai. And you can't rent a property in Dubai unless you have a visa. So because
Right,
I'd
yeah.
lost my job, I wasn't able to renew my rent. So that money that I'd earmarked for my rent was part of what I wanted to spend traveling. But I guess I'd saved up quite a bit. And rather than investing it, I decided to pay off my student loan. So I don't like to be in debt to anyone. I like to not live beyond my means. It's something, back to the money story, something I've always been told growing up, never live beyond your means. So I was very mindful of not having that debt hanging over me. And for me, there's always a trade-off for everyone. You know, some people would say you should have invested in crypto back in those days. And
oh my God, don't we all wish we'd done that? I mean, even if I just bought one Bitcoin.
Exactly. Yeah. And back in those days, it was a couple of £1,000s. So
yeah.
But there's always a trade-off. And for me, the trade-off was enjoying life and enjoying that moment. And having had burnout from that job, I decided I'm going to use this money to experience something new. And money is flow. So it's always flowing in and out, right?
Yeah.
And so with that mindset, money can always be made. So I earmarked that, and I thought to myself, along the way, I'll earn money, and that's where becoming a dive master came into the picture.
Oh, it's and we were talking about this yesterday, but it's really sad why you stopped. Tell us about that.
Diving. Yeah, so actually it wasn't even in the plan to go diving either, but I'd met someone, a dive instructor in Indonesia, and I was already a diver at that point, and they said, you'd make a great dive master. Why don't you come to Thailand, and when you're next over, you can do the course, do the rescue course. And so I did that for about a year. And you're taking fresh divers out, and one day I went to the surface a bit too quickly than I should have, and I hurt my ear, let's say, and that meant that I then got an infection and wasn't allowed to dive or fly, which on an island is quite depressing when you can't go in the water, even if it's the swimming pool. So I was kind of forced into this position where I would either wait around till I recovered, or when I was able to get a flight, come back to the UK, and that's when I came back and retrained. But I think diving taught me a lot without even realizing it at the time. Just being underwater and not being able to communicate or talk. We spoke about this last time. You're very much in your own head.
Yeah.
You know, if you freak out or you panic in the same way that we do with life, but often we have, maybe people to talk to, you're kind of forced into this position where you have to work it out or work through it in your own mind. And I think it was that introspection that then gave me a platform and an interest into transformative coaching and financial coaching.
And that's really interesting.
That's not too jargony.
No, I don't think so. So for everybody listening, what does a transformative financial coach do?
This is a great question. And actually, I was listening to something yesterday which framed it perfectly. So there are loads of different coaches, and hopefully as well, this helps anyone out there who's thinking of coaching and isn't quite ready to take the plunge, or maybe they don't know what type of a coach to look for. It all kind of sounds the same. So there's 3 levels to coaching. The first is performance coaching. So that is literally achieving an outcome, right? So we often see it on social media. People say, I help you to save more money. That would be a performance metric. So I'm now saving £100. I want to save £200. And a coach would facilitate you and coach you to hopefully save you more money. Yeah. Then you have development coaching. So that might mean, let's say you want to save more money, but you don't quite know how. So maybe there are tools out there, but you haven't quite got to the point of figuring out which ones are useful to you. So a development coach might say, right, here's a budget. Here is information about all the savings accounts that are available to you. And it's almost educating the development stage and giving you the skills to then go, right, I know I'm going to go to Savings Champion when I next want to move my savings so I can get the best interest rate. So it's really about the development of the individual.
Yeah.
And then you have transformative coaching, and this happens on a deeper level. And this really dives into things like your values and your beliefs. And like we started this call, your money story. So what things are you telling yourself? And often people that benefit from transformative coaching might be asking themselves questions like, why does this always happen to me? You know, why can I never save? It's impossible that I can earn more money. Everything is, I don't know, going up in price and I just can't afford it. Now, this might be true on some level, but ultimately they are all beliefs that
very true.
That we think. And so transformative coaching will dive into that and challenge. It can be challenging at some times to reframe some of those beliefs, ideas, values. Really, it's about your awareness of self. And then a successful transformative coach will get someone to a point where they have that eureka moment and they go, right, I get it. I need to have this income stream, that income stream so that I can save more, or whatever it is. But ultimately believing that it is possible to create more. I don't know if I want to say wealth, financial health, financial security.
Security.
Financial freedom as well. Freedom comes in different forms. We're not talking about being billionaires, but freedom to be able to travel or do whatever it is, you know, buy a property or, you know, provide for your children. You know, those things are all things that people would love to do. So I think, transformative coaching really works on that level. And ultimately it leads to that paradigm shift where someone goes, I get it now. And actually, for a lot of people, we know that there are budgets online. We know there are free budgeting tools. We know there is help out there, but people don't take that step. And if they do,
this is exactly why the Mad About Money app exists. So we have like loads of tools, loads of spreadsheets, loads of like little planner type things that you can download. And if you're watching this episode in the Mad About Money app, you need to go to the resources section, and they're all in there. But you know, often people really need help with actually what to put on those things. And that's something that, you know, it doesn't come to everybody naturally, does it? You know, so people like me and you who talk about money in our sleep, you know, we know exactly what we're doing with those types of things, but not everybody does. And, you know, I had to make them really pretty so that people actually wanted to use them. Like, I just thought, you know, if I make them really nice colours, then maybe it might actually encourage people to actually pick one of them up and go and have a look at it and just print it off and start filling stuff in. Like, but not everybody has that motivation or that mindset. Right. You know, mindset is really the key to all of this, isn't it?
Yeah. So as you say, providing free resources can help people to give them the tools. Whereas the one-to-one coaching or even group coaching, there's a lot of course junkies out there. So it's not necessarily a case of doing lots of budgeting exercises, but it could also be a case of finding a coach who's going to dive a little bit deeper into what your money mindset is, which will then help you to then stick to that budget, create that budget and go, actually, I'm going to take action with this. And each month, my target is to save X amount. And we all set goals in life. Well, most people have set a goal in life, and often we don't achieve those goals. And that can be quite discouraging for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's all about revising the goals, reviewing what's working and what's not. I remember I coached a lady once. She wanted to save more money, decided she was going to overpay her mortgage. And a month later, we had another check-in and she said, I just can't do it. It's just, I'd love to be able to overpay more mortgage, but it's too much of a stretch. And that's where financial coaching is finding that balance between what's important to us and living in the moment now and doing what we want to, but also saving for our future as well. So.
And that really does make a difference. It does. And you work with business owners as well, don't you, in terms of like helping them more with their finances and that mindset towards business. I think that's probably even more important sometimes than personal finances, because I know a lot of business owners who, you know, they are stuck with that limiting belief. They're stuck thinking, you know, this is all I can do, this is the only money that I can make, or my business is failing, or, you know, there are so many different people that I'm speaking to all the time who really could do with help in those kind of arenas. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, well, first of all, just because I can't speak for you, but just because I'm a financial coach, it doesn't mean that we have all the answers either, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, I had this conversation, but I'm very, very open about my money and about the fuck ups that I call them. You know, I help people who have got ADHD with their spending, and they're mainly helping them to reduce their monthly outgoings. So I'm not really, you know, I'm not really a mindset person. I'm not really a transformative coach. I help people with practical tips to decrease what they're spending in a month. But I don't follow my own rules sometimes. And yesterday I went and bought these shoes, and I'm going to show you because they're so beautiful. Look how beautiful these shoes are. And that goes against everything that I teach anybody else about spending and about spending addiction. I did not plan for these shoes. Naughty Maddie. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, there are lots of different ways you can talk about this and frame it. But we don't have all the answers.
Yeah. And I think that's the difference between perhaps a business mentor, someone who's been through the journey and is going to tell you what worked for them, how it can work for you. Whereas business coaching with through a lens of finance is more around finding out what you as a person you want to achieve, what your values are, you know, what kind of a business you want to create for yourself, what kind of work-life balance do you want to create for yourself. And then you can start to work back and go, right, well, how much am I worth? What is my price point? What is the value that I bring? And then that then ties in with the income streams and different revenue streams, maybe sometimes for some people, depending if you're selling a product or a service.
Yeah.
But it all starts with this mindset piece and setting goals for yourself. And then you can figure out the rest, so to speak, along the journey, because these coaching sessions are often a journey. Nothing happens overnight. It is about changing habits, consistency. And I see that in my own business. You know, there's been times where I've been self-employed for 5 years. But there's been times on that journey where perhaps things are a bit quieter, particularly over summer holidays or Christmas time. And so you've got to plan for those things as a business owner. And I think taking that angle of finance with this business can help people. And research has shown that. I think I read yesterday, it's like 88% of business owners said that they have financial coaching and it helped them achieve their goals. And that is very, very high. So it's
absolutely, it's really needed. And I mean, I know personally, I think ADHD brain, being a business owner, let's talk a little bit about being a business owner with ADHD, because I think it's a bit shit sometimes. Like, I have lots and lots of ideas. I'm a business person, I'm an entrepreneur, I've got business ideas, and they come thick and fast. Where I really struggle sometimes is knowing what to charge. You know, pricing, you mentioned it before. Having a pricing strategy in your business and knowing what you're worth. Like, I used to give away so much for free. In my old business, I gave away things that were worth hundreds, maybe sometimes even thousands of pounds for free, just because I didn't feel like I could charge for those things. And my mindset was changed massively. So I did some transformative coaching a while back, sort of back end of last year. And it really is game changing. You know, just thinking about what you're worth and not being scared to tell somebody your price. Because I always, and also having run a discount business as well, I was so in the discount mindset, which actually is sometimes quite a bad mindset to be in, because I would be constantly thinking discounts, 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 discounts. So I'd go and say to a client, you know, for an employee benefits package, for example, which should be like 10 grand, I'd go and I'd be like, that's £10,000, but I'll give it to you for 5. And then I'd like walk away and I'd be like, what the hell did I do that for? She was going to pay 10, stupid woman. And I had a really bad time with it. And I know that a lot of business owners struggle with that. What would be your tips for somebody who's going through that kind of thought process?
Yeah. Oh, wow. There's a lot to unpack. I think
Mm,
the first thing is to feel comfortable, first of
yeah,
all, because if you're not comfortable with the price that you're charging, you're not going to convince anyone, because you're not even convincing yourself, right? If you go into a session and you're like, right, I charge 10 grand, but you don't believe that you're worth 10 grand, the other person is going to see and feel that as well, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
It's about knowing your own value and your worth. And something that I find interesting, because I've worked with over 750 people roughly, and I think there's a wide spectrum of people. And often you see like these one size fit all. So people talk about, and I don't know if your audience will be familiar with this, but having sort of a pyramid in terms of your product. So having, a cheap, let's say, what's the word, a cheaper product, which is a non-considered purchase. So something that
Yeah.
costs 10,
Yeah.
20 pounds that people don't need to think about. And then having a product or service maybe that's between 200 and 500 pounds that's a considered purchase, where someone has to go away and actually think about it. And maybe like a top tier package that's £1,000 plus. The thing is that I find is that the more that you charge, arguably, maybe depending on who your target market is, you might have to have more calls with people to convert one person, right? Whereas if you're charging £10, you might just be signing everyone up because it's a no-brainer deal, right? So there's always a trade-off between how much time you're spending on your funnel or converting leads, and that is time in your business, versus how many people you actually plan on converting. So let's say you were charging £50 and you need to speak to 10 people to sign up one person. That would be 10 hours of your time. That's worth £50. Whereas if you charge £300 an hour, you might need to speak to 30 people, right? So that's 30 hours of your time. So it's also about thinking about how you onboard clients, I'm talking specifically about services, right?
Yeah.
This could apply to like a web designer, for example, but thinking about how you offer your services and how you actually onboard those people. So are you spending time with them first? Because that is money that, you might charge for as a business owner, right? So as a business owner, we all, have marketing, networking, there's other things that we need to do, not just the coaching itself, right? So you need to take all of those things into consideration when you're coming up with your pricing strategy. And the second thing I would say is nothing's set in stone, right?
No.
So you've got to try it. You've got to try it, see how it feels, put it on the mirror, put it on your vision board, get comfortable with asking for that money. Even if you're talking to friends, family, try it out, see how it feels, and don't be scared to change. Don't be scared to pivot and go, actually, I'm charging not enough, I'm charging too much, and being a bit flexible with those prices as well.
Yeah, I mean that sounds really sensible, really sensible. And we spoke about this yesterday because we were kind of thinking about the fact that small business owners, they all have accountants, because it's a very, very necessary thing. And unless you're a really good person with numbers and you want to do your own bookkeeping, brilliant. But accountants really do kind of keep you on track in terms of your budgeting and your forecasting and your monthly management accounts, etc. But what they don't do is they don't help you with visions and goals and all of the things that you need to succeed as a business owner, which is why I think your services are so needed. But not that many people will take time out and budget for somebody to help them as a financial planner. And I think that is really, really important.
Yeah,
So
that's a very good point. Yeah, and I think accountants don't just help you with your numbers, they also help you save money.
they do. Oh, they do.
They should be, right? They should be helping you be more tax efficient. Not everyone, some people decide to do their accounts by themselves. It depends on how many expenses you have and what it looks like. There are tools online, that you can use now that charge like £150 instead of 300, but financial coaching is quite similar in the sense that I, at the moment, have an offer running for £99 a session. They're normally 147. But in that hour, the idea is that money will pay itself back.
Absolutely.
Right? Someone who's got an objective, perhaps save more, increase their revenue, get more business, look where to save or invest or buy a property in future, whatever that looks like, they'll be able to make that money back. But there is that uncomfortable feeling. And I must say myself, having done a lot of courses, I know, and I'm not just talking about coaching, but when you don't pay for something, when something is free, you don't value it as much.
Oh my God, yes.
Give you an example.
Oh my God, yeah. So my example of this is my discount club. So people are like, why don't you just do it for free? And I'm like, because people won't use it. Like, so it's £1 a month, which is super cheap. And people will probably quadruple the, well, I mean, if you're using it lots, you know, you can buy your supermarket vouchers in there, you can buy shopping vouchers for Christmas, you can buy meals out vouchers, like literally any voucher. If you think about the sort of things that you buy on a day-to-day regular basis, you will save more than £1 by doing that. So it's a return on investment, and people don't see spending like, and I want people to use the vouchers, and I want people to get value. I want people to save. I want people to be in competition with each other. How much can people save? How much have I saved? How much have you saved? And this is a prime example of that. And thank you for bringing it up, because like people said to me, like, why don't you just do it for free? And I'm like, because actually it's got a value, you know. And also I have to pay people to get access to those vouchers, and I'm not giving that away for free. So that's why you got to pay. But yes, it's the value versus, like, people don't pay for if you offer something for free. And I had this with my last business as well, weirdly, actually. So I offered free advertising for all of the businesses that were on my platform, and it was supposed to be a mutually beneficial partnership, and people didn't promote that they were part of the scheme. And people didn't promote that they were part of the scheme because they didn't value it, because they hadn't paid. And it's now with my new thing, so Mad About Money recommends, or Mad About Money Marketplace, you know, people pay to be a part of that platform. And I'm hoping that they go and shout about it to their friends and go, hey, look, you know, you can't afford my actual services, get a discount through Mad About Money. I'd love it if they did that. Fingers crossed they all will.
Or give them an incentive where they get
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am going to have a referral scheme, so it'll be people can refer people. So yeah, I'm working on that.
The example that came to my mind was going to the gym, right? So new year, you're all motivated and you see a deal, and I've done this. There's a boot camp that's near me. It was 10 sessions for £10. So I signed up.
That's pretty good.
Right, 10 sessions for 10. It's in the park, circuit training. I love a bit of circuit training, healthy mind, healthy body, healthy mind, all of that. So I signed up and I did 4 sessions, and I just stopped going. And then I got
too cheap.
Right. And then I got myself a personal trainer. And when you're spending more, you're not going to let the personal trainer down, because you've paid for it. And so, you know, personal trainers might charge, I don't know, £20 to £100, right? So if you're paying £100 for a personal trainer, you're going to make sure that you're going to turn up and show up.
Yeah, you
that's
are.
your money, and that's your investment. Right. Whereas when you pay £1 for something, you sort of go, well, it doesn't really matter if I missed this session. It was only £1. There's nothing lost. Right. So it's almost that mindset shift, right? When you're saying, OK, I'm spending £99 on a session, so I'm going to make it worth my while, and I'm going to want to save that back.
Yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
when something's like a tenner, you're like, oh, I'll download it, and if I use it, I use it, but it's no loss. And actually,
maybe I should put my prices up.
But that can be more damaging, can't it? Because then people just go around and buy things for £10, and before you know it, you've bought 10 services for £10 and you haven't actually done anything.
I know, it's weighing it up, isn't it? And it took me so long to get to where my prices were, because I was like, oh, I could give it for free, or I could charge this much a month, or I could do this. And I thought about it, and I thought, no, because it needs to be relatable to how much money people save. So if you're spending £10 a year, the average user, if they were buying, say, £100 a month of vouchers for one of the big supermarkets, they would save £3.50. We all know that most people don't spend £100 a month on food shopping. They spend £200-300 on food shopping. So more realistically, even if you're just using the Mad About Money vouchers for your food shopping, you would save about £14 a month. And that costs you £1 a month to do that. That's a good return on investment. So that's why I decided to go with a low price point. I couldn't do it for free because then people wouldn't have used it. Going back to it, £1 seemed like it was a good investment. Then if people don't use it, they can cancel at any time. So actually it's not as bad.
And one of the, just to run with that, what you just said, if someone saved, let's say £14 a month, is then looking at it and going, so what does that save me a year? So that's now going to save me £130 a year. And actually, if you give that money a purpose, even though you haven't saved it yet, and saying, actually, that £130 is going to pay my phone bill. It's going to pay my gas bill for 1 month. It's going to allow me to upgrade to a nicer room in a hotel for one night on holiday.
Absolutely.
Giving that money a purpose and a value as if you already have it is a lot more motivating, because then you're more incentivized to actually save it.
Exactly that. I'm actually going to write down a list of like all of the I mean, the discounts are amazing. You can save so much on all the vouchers that we've got. But like, you know, just if you're just a normal everyday person, you know, I'm just thinking about like, even if one person went and bought 300 quid's worth of supermarket vouchers and they saved that £14, that's a week's worth of dinner money for your kids' school, or like that's, you know, quarter of a tank of petrol. That's way more motivating than just having 14 quid that you could just spend on nothing, right? So
or even you don't even have to spend it, even just earmarking it. There's what was it, a statistic? Was it something as high as 75% of people, if they had £100 bill tomorrow, they wouldn't be able to pay it? There was some crazy stat,
I saw something like that.
Of people, it was like two. And when you think about, you know, bills are going up. I've just received letters from my water, my council tax, probably like most people. And so even if you earmark that £100 saving and you said, right, I want to save £100 by, you know, using these discounts, what would I do with that? Maybe I would park it in an emergency fund so that if my bills did go up a bit. So it's not always about saving it. It's also about being wise with that money so that you can achieve your goals, because that might then give you a bit of security. And then rather than having that stress of, oh my goodness, I need to save in the first place. Now I have a bit of a buffer. I have a bit of breathing room, which is going to make my life easier because I'm not constantly thinking.
And for all of those people who are like, oh, I can't afford to save, they could if they were using the voucher scheme, because actually they could put the money that they save, even if it's just that, and they just transfer that into another bank account. You know, I always think I'm a big lover of cashback apps. I think they're amazing. They really like, I mean, I use all of them, but it's about putting that money into somebody else's bank because they keep hold of it until you want it. Now that's all well and good, but you could do that with your money, and it's better if you don't spend it in the first place. So that's why the vouchers that we have are different to cashback. So cashbacks are usually free to use because they don't have to pay for the upfront discount. And also, one of the things that does really annoy me about cashback is sometimes you don't get it.
Yeah, you have to wait like 3 months, and then
you have to wait for 3 months, and then it might come, or it might just not sometimes. And you think, oh, but I bought that thinking I was going to get cash back. Whereas at least with my vouchers, you know that you buy them and you save before you do anything, so it stays in your bank account. Anyway, this is not me selling my voucher scheme, although people should do it because it is very good. You know, this is all about you. But, you know, but it's a good example to talk about pricing and mindset and, you know, how you think about things as a business owner. I think we should actually do a session on this, actually, Sarah. We should do like
experiences,
we should, and do like maybe we could do a joint webinar or something.
Stay tuned, everyone watching.
Yes, indeed. Well, Sarah, it's been lovely to have you on. Where do people find you?
So mostly you'll find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, but you can also, my website is, fingers crossed, going live. I don't know when this will be online, but my website's going live hopefully by the end of the week. So it's
it will be there.
It's sarahbrillcoaching.co.uk is my website, but I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions, I'm Sarah Brill. I think I'm Sarah Brill 1 is my URL. It's quite a popular name, but you can always drop me a DM.
And you can find Sarah in the Mad About Money app, because you're going to be hanging around there as well, aren't you? I think that's going to be your new social platform, I think. Okay. Give it a year. No more LinkedIn, just Mad About Money. Just come and be there, because it's where all your people are going to find you, I think. So for those of you guys who are listening to this in the Mad About Money app, you clearly know where you are, which is great. But if you're listening to it on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Music or any of the other places that it gets played, do go and download the Mad About Money app. It's free. It's a social media community where we just talk about money all the time, consumers and business owners. So there's something for everybody there. And also you can join our discount club, which is just £1 a month. And you already know the value of it, because we can spend the last 10 minutes talking about it. Sarah, it's been lovely having you on. I don't think this will be the last time we get you. So please, everybody, make sure that you check out Sarah. Go give her a follow on LinkedIn. And I'm Maddy Alexander-Grout, and we'll see you next time.